Hello, this is housing of the homeless population in Austin, Texas, effects of and response to the COVID-19 pandemic, prepared for the Austin City Council. For a quick introduction, there are over 500,000 homeless population in the U.S. on any given day, over 25,000 in Texas, and in Austin, Texas, over 2,500 every single day. That's an 11% increase in 2020 over the 2019 figure, with 63% being unsheltered. Over 7,000 people in Austin each year will experience homelessness. Austin has purchased the Roadway Inn, the first of many hotel conversions planned to help increase the bed numbers in Austin. The problem is the COVID-19 pandemic has reduced budgets. The community has changed its focus from homelessness to SARS-CoV-2 and the corresponding pandemic. And the Austin 2020 budget has been reduced by $6 million for homelessness services. And citywide beds have gone from 778 to 551. That's a 29% reduction because of social distancing measures. Federally, there's the 1987 McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, which is the only federal legislation that has allocated funding directly to the homeless. On a more local basis, Austin recently decriminalized homelessness by changing city ordinances. To evaluate, we use the PEAL method. So politics, which is people, power, perception. There's an ongoing battle between Texas and Austin, and the power and perception are both important to the city and the state. Epidemiology, there's an unknown prevalence of COVID-19 encampments because the testing is very low. So you also don't know the incidence and the potential spread to the general public. Also, the homeless have an increased risk because they're not wearing masks. They feel like COVID is a low priority, and there's a reduced sanitary environment. Ethically, we want to think about, will getting homeless off the streets keep others from getting COVID-19? So will that benefit the most people? And is it moral to reduce the number of beds and shelters for social distancing? Economically, there's been over $8 million used to buy the Roadway Inn, which is 87 units. We want to look at the cost effectiveness and the cost benefit of creating additional housing for the homeless and reducing the spread of COVID-19 in the homeless population. Laws, we want to look at the state laws. Can the state mandate certain things during this pandemic and citywide? Can the city sequester homeless people or force COVID-19 testing, which the state of Texas has said that the city can create quarantine zones and enforce them with reasonable force. Solutions, we have our status quo, which is the freeze on enforcement of the highway encampment ban, minimal COVID testing at shelters and encampments, minimal additional resources devoted to preventing COVID, and no enforcement of mask wearing currently. So the pros to that status quo are the homeless are allowed to camp under the highways, which are out of the walkways of the general public. Our first alternative is to purchase and build new shelters, and to fill those with the homeless, remove them from the city streets. Pros would be to reduce homeless numbers on the streets and provide more long-term residences. Cons would be cost, mostly in time to purchase and build these shelters. Our second alternative, to enforce the encampment bans and drive the homeless from the city center, and to enforce the preventative measures used for COVID-19. That's going to create ethically questionable tactics. So our recommendation is a multi-pronged approach. We want to build more short-term shelters at the TxDOT site with social distancing measures in place, purchase more hotels, retrofit for the homeless population, maintain the freeze on the highway encampment ban, mandate COVID-19 testing for those staying at city shelters, and mandate preventative measures such as mask wearing and hand washing at city shelters. Limitations is mandating and enforcing preventative measures at the city shelters and drive homeless to the highway encampments where enforcement is not feasible. It could take a long amount of time to build new shelters. Due to economic conditions, the homeless population is likely larger than 2,500 people per day. And currently, with the 492 new cases per day of COVID in Austin, there's likely already a large prevalence of a homeless population with COVID-19. These are my references, and thank you for your time.